Oh my god.
Oh, that's it? Cool. That means the PTB is out. Let's go ahead and download that puppy. Oh. I guess my internet's being a little slow today. I'll check out some TikToks in the meantime while I wait. Let's see. What are we at now? Oh my god. It can't be. Is that... Is that the bite of... Hi guys, Brent here and welcome to another commentary video. Welcome in! It's been a while since we've had a commentary video, and today we're going to be talking about the brand new Five Nights at Freddy PTB that just dropped, covering the infamous William Afton, also known as the Springtrap. Just for reference, this is a complete aside. I know that bite footage that I used in the intro is from Five Nights at Freddy's 4, which is the bite of 83, I'm pretty sure, not 87. It's been a while since I've been in the Five Nights at Freddy lore, so don't hate me too much, please. We're not here to talk about Springtrap in their actual home games where they come from, but how they are in Dead by Daylight. Are they strong? Are they weak? Are they fun? Are they not fun? Are they low skill floor? Are they high skill ceiling? Well, let's go ahead and talk about it. Springtrap is an interesting case in Dead by Daylight because he is neither a stealth killer nor a ranged killer. He's kind of this like weird hybrid of both, kind of a la something like the Xenomorph, but actually done really, really well, and somehow hybridizes both of those concepts into one equal balance that I think really helps you play both sides no matter what your preference is. And I found myself in my games that I was playing today just ping-ponging back and forth between both those playstyles to relative effectiveness no matter which one I favored. So Springtrap goes back and forth between having a knife and trying to sneak around the map by granting himself undetectable, and throwing this big fire axe around, which I know has upset some of you because the fire axe was never canon. It's okay, whatever's the most fun is what matters. You got to remember the owner of Five Nights at Freddy, Scott Cawthon, signed off on all of this, so don't make a big deal about it. Don't make a fuss about it. Don't be weird. But the fire axe is kind of something like a very, very, very heavy Huntress hatchet, and I do mean heavy. If you guys have played it or seen a streamer of yours play it, if you guys don't have it on PC, haven't played the PTB yourself, it kind of like arcs really, really hard, and they really replicate this feeling of like it really feels like you're actually throwing a fire axe because it's so heavy, which I initially was like, ew, this is kind of weird, this is kind of odd, I don't really like this. But the more I got used to it, the more I'm like, oh, yeah, this is really about going up and over. Like, you can do straight shots and that's totally fine, but it's usually if they're really close. But really the bread and butter of this character is arcing the shot up and over things, and that's where it clicked in my brain, because if you guys are here, you probably like the Xenomorph, and you would know that the Xenomorph, that is also one of their big bread and butters, is going up and over objects and bonking people on the head with your tail attack. This does this even better than the Xenomorph does, because it doesn't seem to be as finicky with collision. The one thing that I will say is that this doesn't have any sort of strafes or anything. You do have to be fairly accurate with the fire axe. You kind of just can't throw it and catch their general area. There's plenty instances, which you'll probably see over on the b-roll over there, where I get somebody in like a little narrow hallway and I throw the axe, and they do have the ability to dodge in that little narrow hallway. So you do have to be fairly accurate with this thing. You kind of just can't throw it willy-nilly, unless you just plan to throw it while people are in locked animations. But if you're actually just throwing it with the intent to hit them without the locked animation, you do have to actually aim pretty well to hit them, which I think is really refreshing, because even as somebody who plays a strafe character, I do feel like the more characters that are released, the more they're kind of way more lenient on missing a lot and just kind of calling it a day. So I'm glad this one you actually have to hit, especially considering the immense amount of people that will be coming into the game and playing this character. If you could just, you know, not actually hit your shots and hit anyway, that'd be kind of lame. The axe itself just has so much depth and potential for like a really, really high skill ceiling. I'm sure if you guys are out there on Dead by Daylight social media, you've probably seen a creator or two already making these orbital compilations. It's not an orbital in the same sense that Huntress is, because obviously the range of the fire axe is fairly low. You can't really go that far, at least horizontally with it, but vertically you could chuck that thing straight up. Especially if they're using that one add-on. What is it called? Editing brand, put it over there. That makes the hatchet heavier, or the fire axe heavier. So that way it literally goes up and falls down like almost instantly. It is hilarious. You can create these up down shots, and you can get them literally up and over tiles. So if somebody's in the middle of a jungle gym, long wall jungle gym, L wall jungle gym, if they're looping in the middle of that, which are supposed to be some of the stronger tiles in Dead by Daylight, you could literally throw your fire axe up and crane it back down onto their heads, even if there's a big wall there. It's hilarious and awesome, and it makes you feel like a god when you hit it. It is an amazing feeling. But like realistically, you don't have to do the super high skill ceiling stuff. You can do the low skills floor stuff, kind of aim more into just hitting the fire X when it's convenient, trying to lean more into your stealth. He's kind of like the perfect blend of high skill ceiling but also low skill floor. He seems accessible to most players, which is really hard to pull off, and Behavior has had a hard time striking that balance with a lot of their character releases. And if there was a one that they needed to hit that with, it was with this extremely huge IP, probably one of the biggest IPs that has hit the game. So I'm glad they struck that balance between having a low skill floor but also an incredibly high skill ceiling with the Springtrap. Kind of began to get on my nerves while I was playing Springtrap. Had nothing to do with the Springtrap themselves, but it kind of made me wonder why we were so harsh on the Xenomorph and their design, because Springtrap also comes with these doors that are supposed to emulate the Five Nights at Freddy's kind of like security office thing that you do in the games, and Springtrap can go back and forth between them, and they are undetectable the whole way, and they can use that to travel the map and pop out right next to the survivors. Some of these doors spawn almost exactly on top of the gens, so the Springtrap can from cross map go through a door and almost instantly appear on the survivor, and there's no warning because the door barely makes a noise, he barely starts moving, and then you have to move. The reason that the Xenomorph's flame turrets have motion sensors in them that are 41 meters long, which is a very, very long distance, is because, hey, if I'm going to be sitting on a gen next to a control station, it's kind of unfair, quote unquote, right? If the Xenomorph can just approach me without my knowing and pop up on me and get essentially a free hit. That made sense at the time because there wasn't anything else in the game that ruined that rule. I'm like, okay, I guess I can kind of see that. But now we just have Springtrap doors, which essentially do the exact same thing the control stations do, except without the penalty of having the flame turrets that rat out your stealth. So it begs the question, why do we not only have motion sensors in the flame turrets that rat out the Xenomorph if they have undetectable, oblivious, whatever, but also why are they 41 meters when the Springtrap can just step out of his door like 3 feet from the survivor and that's perfectly okay? Why? What is this double standard? I think I'm one of those people that I like the way Xenomorph is. I don't complain too much about it. I want maybe a collision pass to make that tail feel a little better. Obviously fix the bugs too. I've never been one of those people like, we must have facehuggers, we must have stealth. But now I kind of just want the stealth just because it feels like you're spitting in my face by going, I can hop out of my 7 things that help me traverse the map and pressure the gens without being caught. But you can't. It feels like it's such a slap in the face. I hate it. Also, this is probably a good part to put in that yes, I did watch the whole anniversary stream. I did see the aquatic alien skin that is coming to the game. It does look sick. It does look awesome. I'll try to have editing brand put the clip here, this very, very funny clip of me literally holding my monitor in my hands because I'm so excited about the skin. It looks really awesome. So yes, I am excited to see it. I know that question is coming. So yeah, I'm very excited to see it. Yep. The map, the Fazbear Pizzeria, is actually pretty cool. A lot of people were worried fairly early on when the screenshots were shown about the map that they were going to be, you could see that it was on the Withered Isle or the Greenville Square realm. So a lot of people saw just the pizzeria in the background and they saw most of Greenville around it. And they just assumed it was going to be one of those situations where the pizzeria was just going to be the main building, and there was going to be this big, huge map like Greenville Square, where it's just the theater and most of it's just the forest or the whatever you want to call it. And people were really, really upset about that because it's Five Nights at Freddy's, not Five Nights at Greenville Square, not Five Nights in the Woods. Sitting in the pizzeria fighting for your life is kind of a very, very important part of the experience of making it feel like it's Five Nights at Freddy's. So to see that it was just a main building was kind of worrisome. However, I am happy to report that the main building takes up a vast majority of the map. It's extremely huge, and the parts that kind of look like Greenville that have the tiles shack, the path tiles, that area is relatively small and mostly there to just accentuate the big main building that is at the center back of the map instead of the other way around. I almost, once again, I always got to route it back to the Xenomorph and Alien. I kind of wish the Nostromo wreckage was kind of like this too, where the Nostromo took up more of the map and the LV-426 around it was barely there just to accentuate the ship that's been crashed here. But once again, you can really see how there was that rumor that went around that was fairly well founded that the reason Scott Cawthon was happy to trust Dead by Daylight with the Five Nights at Freddy's license is because they did the Xenomorph Alien license so well. They did the Alien license so well that they're like, okay, I can trust you with Five Nights at Freddy's. And I think that what that translated to was do that except with mine but better is what I'm beginning to realize. The one thing I will say about the pizzeria map is that it does start to kind of like edge on like Haddonfield territory, where the map feels extremely small and the main building is pretty good, so that might end up kind of I don't know, balancing out in the end there. But yeah, the map feels really tiny, so that may lead to some rough situations, but otherwise it's a fairly cool map. The perks were fine, but just like nothing too groundbreaking, to be honest. My favorite one was Phantom Fear, and that's the one which causes the survivor in your Terriers that looks at you to scream and reveal their location for 2 seconds. I paired this with Dead Man Switch, which you can probably already see the, you know, synergy with that. It's just by looking at me, you now have to let go of the gen because you screamed and force fire, even if you necessarily did not want to. This was also really helpful in situations where people wanted to rat by generators, like you go walk up to a generator that's partially finished, but you can't tell who was quite working on it. If that person that's ratting nearby looks at you even slightly at all, now you know exactly where they are, so you can just go bother them. I'd be really interested to use this perk, Phantom Fear, and try to add it into my Hex harpoon gun build that I put out a few weeks ago, because this is yet another thing that makes them scream. And it's also if they look at you, which if they're on the totem, they're probably panning their camera, trying to make sure you're not trying to come up on them and interrupt them. So it might have some good synergy there. I think unfortunately the other perks are they're just okay at best. Help Wanted is when you damage a generator, it becomes compromised, and when that generator completes, your basic attack cooldowns are 25% faster for 60 seconds. This is like if machine learning in Save the Best for Last had a baby, a very weird baby, and I find myself wondering, like, why would I run this when I could just run Save the Best for Last? Because Save doesn't have a cooldown, doesn't have a prerequisite for, you know, kicking the gen and having it complete, and also at 7 stacks or more you are faster than this perk as well, which you can just keep those stacks by avoiding the obsession as much as possible. It's just a whole lot of setup and cooldown for something that another perk already does. I guess there's the fun gimmick that you could like run these together and be kind of obnoxious, but other than that, why would you not just run Save the Best for Last in this slot? I don't know. Haywire is a really interesting perk because it's the long requested mechanic of having exit gates regressing, because one of the big things that has been meta in DVD for a long time that recently fell out of meta, funnily enough, is 99 exit gates. The reason people do this is so they have time to go into the map and save their friends, reset, do whatever they need to do, whereas if they open the exit gate, they put themselves on a firm timer. They also do this in order to avoid the perk Blood Warden, which blocks the exit gates if the killer hooks while the exit gates are open. Haywire specifically makes it to where the exit gate switches that have at least 50% progress regress at a rate of 50% gate opening speed, and the lights also flicker randomly. Once again, I just don't really see this perk getting anything outside of a limited use. It basically only can slot into endgame builds. Like I also mentioned briefly earlier, Haywire comes at a pretty inconvenient time in the meta of Dead by Daylight, because it's very clearly a perk meant to specifically counter 99 exit gates. And over recent months, like the past year or so, a lot of popular creators have started to put out the idea that 99ing exit gates actually does more harm than good. There's plenty of situations where somebody unhooks, and while they're running to the exit gate, because the exit gate's not open, somebody has to get ahead of everybody body blocking, open the gate, and in that kerfuffle, usually somebody goes down and the whole process repeats itself. Also, the aforementioned Blood Warden is basically almost never run. It's one of the lower pick rate perks in the entire game. So you're not 99ing it to avoid Blood Warden, and sometimes having the gate shut actually creates more issues than it solves. A lot of people would have preferred this simply just as a mechanic that was added to the game, a la something like Shattered Hope that was meant to counter the boon meta, but once again behavior refused to do that, decided to just kind of slot it into a perk, and now it's just relegated to running this specific perk. If you want to counter the specific playstyle, the specific playstyle is even, you know, kind of falling off in popularity anyways. It's just kind of like a rough timing for this perk to come out in particular. Now, I wanted to keep this video mostly focused on the FNAF content because a lot of changes went through, and most of them I kind of don't have notes on, to be honest. Zone X prevention, fine. Bulk blood point spending, fine. Survivors spawning together, great. Map offerings nerfed, hell yeah. Custom game improvements are also in there, which is pretty cool. Like, all of it is mostly just no notes, no complaints from me, really. So I don't really feel like the need to go super in depth about it. However, one thing that I did want to harp on is why did they just kind of like gut artists add-ons for like no reason? In the dev notes, the day before the PTB released, the devs said that they for some reason are going to be giving artists an add-on pass. There's plenty of other characters that definitely need an add-on pass more. Pyramid Head comes to mind, but a lot of artist players welcome this with open arms as they don't have a lot of add-on variety. Not as bad as Pyramid Head, but add-on variety was a little lacking. I actually have, surprisingly, a lot of artist mains in my community. I don't know what the deal is there. Low play rate homies stick together, I guess. But the point being is that a lot of them were excited to see some of the lesser used add-ons get some good utility, have some add-on variety, and expected some of the usual suspects to get nerfed, mostly severed hands, but they kind of deserved it. However, what happened instead were rather sweeping nerfs, where most add-ons like Eerie Feather saw marginal improvement, while the rest saw collective nerfs across the board. I'm not really sure what their game plan was here. Artist is a good killer. Most people only place her low A tier or even in the B tier. She's a very high skill floor and high skill ceiling killer that's mentally demanding to keep up with. So her play rate is fairly low, so it's not like she was out here constantly creating unfun matches for the general player base at all. This feels, I'm gonna go there again, it feels weirdly like the Xenomorph changes all over again, but just the light edition, you know? At least they're only messing with the add-ons, but it feels like, once again, they just kind of picked a character relatively at random that was relatively unoffensive, not too crazy strong, but pretty good, and just pervasively nerfed them, just because. Like I said, this time it's just the add-ons, but still, why? Why did you do that? Honestly, this really isn't helping the tinfoil hat theory that someone who has control over game balancing at behavior sometimes just has bad games against niche killers in the game, and then that translates directly into changes. It was a kind of a funny just joke at first, but how many characters are going to be arbitrarily taken out back before we get to the bottom of this weird pattern that keeps happening? Now, obviously, Artist is not being gutted like Skull Merchant did, and Xenomorph almost did, but you know, running add-ons is kind of like the third of the point of playing killer. Fun build, fun character power, and then fun add-ons, right? So just having an aspect of that missing for the artist player base kind of sucks. So I really hope these don't go through. Also, this is just a random aside. Dracula is just kind of like randomly Killswitched for some reason. It was down at the bottom of the known issues section, just chilling there without really any explanation as to why. Dracula has a slew of bugs right now, although most of the roster does. This includes his Hellfire being slow to accelerate, major FPS issues when switching forms, and major FPS issues when teleporting is a bad. There's other ones, but I don't remember them off the top of my head. However, he's kind of been like that since the Arella chapter drop, so it's not like that was the reason they decided to kill switch him. I wonder what they found when they were porting to the PTB that was like, oh, we can't have that in the game, that's a problem. I wonder what it was. Well, I don't know, but that's a problem for people smarter than me to think about, because I got up very, very early today for the dev stream, the FNAF PTB and all that, and it's, well, it's the middle of the night here, and I'm hanging on by a thread. So before I pass out, what did you guys think of the Springtrap? What did you think of his power? AB? AB tier? CD tier? I know I've seen some people say he's really, really strong. Some people say he's really, really weak. Let me know down in the comments below. But other than that, that's it for today's video, friends. Hopefully I made your day a little bit better today just with this silly little video. But if I didn't, I'll try to do so again in the next video. And if I don't see you there, I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.